The day Sophia Thompson accepted Ethan Carter's public confession, everyone expected me to lose it. They thought I'd fight Ethan to the death. But I never showed up, and Sophia had no idea why. At that very moment, I was in her best friend's bed, holding her best friend, trying desperately to keep a volcano from erupting. The rich transfer student had demanded Sophia make a big public display of her feelings. Sophia had told everyone to keep it from me, but she didn't realize that the gossips couldn't wait to spill the beans. Everyone knew how hopelessly I was in love with Sophia, that I dreamed of marrying her. This time, Sophia had fallen for the new guy, and everyone assumed I'd fly into a rage. Nobody wants to miss that kind of drama, so they were all waiting for me to have a meltdown and cause a scene. Too bad for them. The confession ended, and I was still a no-show. The massive crowd of onlookers started to look bored, and even Sophia didn't seem particularly thrilled. She linked arms with her new boyfriend and pulled out her phone. There were no calls or messages from me. She frowned, then announced to the crowd, "Ethan's treating everyone tonight." The students erupted in cheers. That was my cue. I stepped out from behind the trees where I'd been hiding. A sharp-eyed student spotted me and yelled, "It's Noah. Noah Williams is here." I knew it. There's no way he could stay away. Sophia's head snapped up, and the moment she saw me, the faintest smirk touched her lips. I ignored the gawking crowd and walked right up to her. "Noah," she began, tightening her grip on Ethan's arm. She looked at me, her voice flat. "You can't force feelings. We've known each other for more than a decade, and I don't want to say anything too harsh and ruin what we had. I'll always see you as a brother, and you can still help me out if I ever need anything." Then she lowered her voice. "Everyone's watching. Don't make this ugly for us. Just leave." I cut her off. "Sophia." I took a slow step forward, and she frowned, her voice filled with annoyance. "Noah, just calm down and go home." I smiled and held out the watch I had just taken off my wrist. "I just came to give this back to you," I said. Sophia's expression immediately soured. "What game are you playing now, Noah?" "Just take the watch," I replied, "and I'll never bother you again." She stared at me, her voice turning icy. I couldn't care less about that watch now. "If you don't want it, throw it out." The second she finished speaking, I turned and tossed the watch into a nearby trash can. "You should probably throw out all the other stuff I gave you too," I said. Without another glance at her, I walked away. Sophia just stood there, her expression ugly long after I had disappeared from sight. Her friend quickly tried to smooth things over. "Hey, Noah's just proud. He's putting on a brave face. Just you watch, Sophia, he'll regret this by tonight. He'll probably come back, crying, and dig that watch out of the trash the second we leave." Sophia let out a short laugh. "Let him. If I didn't have to worry about our parents, I wouldn't give him the time of day. Come on, let's not get upset. We're celebrating tonight, so don't let him spoil the fun." Sophia glanced at her handsome, wealthy new boyfriend and pushed my annoying face from her mind. By tomorrow, she figured I'd be back to my old self, waiting for her outside the dorms, begging her forgiveness, ready to walk to class together. As I reached the Charles River, the rain was coming down in sheets. I stood there under my umbrella, thinking about the dreams I'd been having lately. In them, I was so distraught over Sophia and Ethan that I lost my footing while walking along the river and fell in. The fall injured my spine, nearly killing me and leaving me permanently disabled, unable to ever walk again. And through it all, Sophia never once came to visit. The Williams family, who had adopted me, saw my condition and decided I was no longer of any use to them. They sent me back to my birth parents, a pair of depraved scumbags who were into every vice imaginable. From there, my life spiraled downwards until I died a miserable death. After I died, the one person who collected my broken body was, surprisingly, the one person I'd always kept at a distance. Meanwhile, Sophia and Ethan were blissfully married, thick as thieves, and she never gave me a second thought. Everything in those dreams had been coming true, one by one. If it weren't for them, I'd be blowing up Sophia's phone right now. I was so grateful for those dreams. It felt like I'd been given a second chance, a way to slowly rewrite my own tragic destiny. The third time I dialed, she finally picked up. I pressed the phone tightly to my ear, her name rolling around in my head a few times before I finally spoke it aloud. Grace. The pouring rain seemed to drown out the rest of the world, leaving only her quiet voice. Noah. Yeah, I said. Grace, the rain's too heavy. I'm stuck down by the river and can't get back. Can you come get me? The line went silent for a few seconds. I gripped the handle of my umbrella, waiting anxiously for her answer. In my dream, when Grace was collecting my remains, she was crying. Her tears fell onto my rotted flesh and bones, and I could feel their scorching heat even in the dream. Afterwards, she carried a small vial of my ashes with her for the rest of her life, and she spent that life utterly alone. At the thought, a choked sigh escaped me. Grace was quiet for a beat. Don't be upset, she said. I didn't say no. Awkwardly, I asked, so, when will you be here? Just wait. 20 minutes. Okay, I said. I'll be waiting. She didn't say another word before hanging up. 15 minutes later, I gave my umbrella to a mother and son who were sheltering from the downpour. So by the time Grace arrived, I was completely soaked. When she stepped out of the car, her lips were pressed into a thin line, her expression frosty. I tried to fix my dripping hair and gave her a huge grin. Grace, you're right on time, I teased. Noah, you are an absolute idiot. Her face was a cold mask as she grabbed my arm, yanked me into the car, and tossed a soft blanket at me. Dry off, she ordered. Don't get the seats wet. She shot me a look in the rearview mirror, then told the driver to head back. I wiped the water from my hair and studied her as she stared out the window. When she didn't show any emotion, she looked so cold and unapproachable. Plenty of guys at school were into her, but none of them ever had the guts to ask her out. She was Sophia's best friend and roommate, and I used to go over to their shared apartment all the time to help Sophia with things. Every single time, Grace looked at me like she couldn't stand the sight of me. Even now, coming all this way to get me, she was still acting so cold. There was no way to tell that she'd secretly been in love with me. I slowly shook my head. The events of the dream had played out, but now that I'd changed my actions, other things were changing too. Did that mean Grace might not like me anymore? If she didn't, wasn't I just causing more problems for her by doing all this? Back to your dorm? Grace asked, suddenly glancing back at me. My heart jumped. For some reason, I blurted out, what about your place? Grace actually laughed out loud. Sophia isn't coming back tonight, so you won't see her there. I know, I said, embarrassed. I'm not trying to see her. Grace turned to face me fully, her expression unreadable. Noah, are you just using me as part of some plan of yours? She stared at me, her eyes dark and filled with 1,000 emotions. Thinking of the dream version of her, a wave of sadness washed over me. I sighed. Grace, you know what happened today? My roommates are all calling me a pathetic simp who got played. I'm planning to find a place to rent tomorrow. Do you think I could crash on your couch for just one night? I quickly added, of course, if that's not okay, it's no big deal. I can find somewhere else. Grace didn't say a word, but the car turned and headed towards her apartment. I followed Grace into her apartment. She got a towel from her closet and handed it to me. Bathroom's over there, she said. After my shower, I threw on my hoodie and came out, towel drying my hair and looking for a blow dryer. Grace was on the sofa, staring intently at the TV. She glanced at me for a split second before her eyes darted away. I walked over and sat down beside her. My hair and skin smelled of her shampoo and body wash. The shared scent filled the small space, creating a quiet, unspoken intimacy between us. Grace stood up abruptly. It's a little stuffy in here, she said, her lips pressed together. I'm going to get some air on the balcony. As she stepped outside, I curiously looked around the room. The TV was playing Pokemon. The coffee table was perfectly neat, holding a few books, a notebook, and her phone. I was about to examine a little trinket on the corner of the table when her phone suddenly started ringing. Sophia's name flashed on the screen. I didn't answer it. A moment later, it started ringing again, insistently. I called out to the balcony, Grace. She turned around quickly. What is it? It's Sophia. The next second, Grace picked up the phone and silenced it. I scratched my head awkwardly, trying to change the subject. I think I got the couch a little wet. Looks like I'll be sleeping on the floor tonight. Her eyes met mine for 2 seconds before she looked away, but not before I noticed the tips of her ears were turning red. She glanced from me to the damp spots on the sofa, then turned and got the hairdryer for me. "You could just sleep in my bed," she said quietly. "Then where will you sleep?" I asked. She pulled out her desk chair without looking back. "I'm going to finish my show." Grace grabbed her headphones, but just as she was about to put them on, my phone rang. It was Sophia. I answered, annoyed. "What do you want, Sophia?" Grace frowned, but said nothing, glancing at me before turning back to her screen. "Someone told me they saw you at our apartment," Sophia said. "I'm warning you, Noah, don't be a creep. It's just going to make me hate you more." I was about to retort, but before I could get a word out, Grace got up, walked over, straddled my lap, and wrapped her arms around my neck. My first instinct was to push her off, but she leaned in and whispered in my ear, "Tell her you're here to see someone else." Her fingers traced the back of my neck, and my skin felt like it was on fire. My jaw tightened, my heart hammered against my ribs. I looked down at her. She was gazing up at me, her eyes darkening with an intensity I'd never seen before. My voice came out raspy. "Don't flatter yourself, Sophia. I'm here for someone else." After I said that, Grace snatched the phone from my hand, tossed it on the couch, and buried her face in my chest. I felt a volcano of heat erupt inside me, and a roaring filled my ears. My first thought was to get away, to calm down. But Grace held on tight, lifting her head to whisper my name. "Noah." Her hot breath ghosted across my ear, and I lost all control, leaning down to kiss her. As she responded, breaking down my defenses, I tried to pull back my sanity. "Don't do this, Grace," I managed to say. "I don't want to not hear." She shifted slightly on my lap, trying to get more comfortable, and the volcano inside me threatened to blow. We broke apart, gasping for air. "If you don't want to touch me, why did you kiss me?" she demanded, her forehead pressed against mine, our breaths mingling. I closed my eyes, trying to get myself under control. "And another thing," she added, "have you ever kissed anyone before?" My lips are completely swollen. My right hand rested on her waist over her shirt, and my left hand took hers. "Grace," I whispered, "I'll be gentler this time." My hands moved to the small of her back, pressing her body fully against mine. This kiss was long and soft. Towards the end, I lost a little control, and when we came up for air, she playfully punched my chest and nipped my lip. I managed to keep the volcano from erupting, but it was a close call. Clearly, Grace felt it too. Her eyes widened in surprise, and her ears turned bright red. The cool, untouchable Ice Queen was suddenly blushing. I'm going to take a shower," she stammered. She scrambled off my lap, her eyes cast down, and tugged my hoodie back into place. "You can get some sleep." Before I could reply, she had vanished into the bathroom. As the water started running, I lay down on her bed and drifted off. Grace was tall and stunning, with bright eyes and a perfect smile, the undisputed goddess of our campus's social media pages. Yet she'd never had a boyfriend, never even been seen getting close with a guy. There were even rumors she wasn't into men at all. But after what just happened, I couldn't help but think of my dream, of her growing old all alone, and a complicated feeling stirred inside me. I stretched out on her pillow, and my hand brushed against something hard underneath it. It was a single pearl earring. It looked familiar. I'd given it to her as part of a set of cheap gifts for Sophia's roommates when I was trying to win Sophia over. I never imagined Grace would keep it, let alone under her pillow. Then I remembered my dream. She had that very same earring with her then, too. I stared at it for a long moment before placing it back under the pillow, just as the sound of the hair dryer stopped. Grace emerged from the bathroom, wearing a set of cream-colored cotton pajamas. Her skin was glowing from the steam, and her hair fell softly around her shoulders, stripping away some of her usual cool reserve. For some reason, she looked incredibly sweet and vulnerable. I was about to say her name when I heard faint voices from the hallway. My blood ran cold, and I froze. One of the voices was unmistakably Sophia's. Grace looked panicked too, but she snapped into action much faster than I did. By the time Sophia pushed the door open, Grace had already shoved my clothes into her closet and kicked my shoes far into the bed. She was just pulling the covers over herself as Sophia entered. The only light was a small night light, casting dim shadows across the room. I was a faint, barely perceptible lump under the blankets next to Grace. Unless Sophia looked very closely, she wouldn't see a thing. "Why is it so dark in here already?" Sophia asked curiously. "I got caught in the rain earlier," Grace replied. "I have a bit of a headache." As she spoke, she secretly tickled the palm of my hand under the covers. The bed was narrow, and with Grace being so tall and long-legged, there wasn't much room. My body was pressed right up against hers. I could feel the light puff of her breath against my side and the way her stomach muscles clenched tight. "Okay." Sophia didn't turn on the main light. She sat down in the desk chair and tried making a few calls, but nobody picked up. She sounded annoyed. "Seriously, Grace, do you think Noah is doing this on purpose?" Ethan confesses his love for me, and not even a few hours later, Noah is already trying to ruin it. I saw on the news that some college kid jumped into the river over a breakup, and for a second, I thought it was him. But it wasn't. Then he calls me to say he's found someone else, and now he won't answer his phone. Sophia slammed her phone down on the desk. "He's doing this on purpose to ruin my night with Ethan." Sophia sneered. "I swear, he's going to be obsessed with me for the rest of his life." "Not necessarily," Grace said suddenly. Sophia sounded surprised. "What do you mean, not necessarily?" "Grace, you've seen how he's been chasing me for the last 2 years. You can't stand him either. You've never once been nice to him." Hearing that, I couldn't resist giving Grace a sharp pinch on her side. She flinched, her body going rigid, and let out a tiny hiss of pain. "What's wrong?" Sophia asked. "Nothing," Grace mumbled, her voice strained. "Just a leg cramp." She coughed twice for good measure. Sophia sighed. "Well, forget it. You get some rest. I won't bother you." As she stood up, Sophia said, "I'm just going to use the bathroom, then I'll head out." As she pushed the bathroom door open, a horrible thought struck me. I had washed my socks when I showered, and I'd left them hanging in there to dry. Sure enough, when Sophia came out 2 minutes later, she was wearing a sly grin. "Grace, did you bring a guy back to the apartment? You kept that quiet," she teased. "Who's the lucky guy who finally captured our resident ice queen?" "Don't be ridiculous," Grace snapped. Sophia took a few steps toward the bed. "Or are you hiding someone in there with you?" "Sophia," Grace said, her voice dangerously low. Sophia stopped. Okay, I won't come any closer." But she gave the bed one last interested look. "Just be safe, okay?" she teased. "I've got plenty of extra protection if you need it. Wouldn't want a little accident to happen." I gently squeezed Grace's hand, which was clenched into a tight fist. She finally looked at Sophia, her voice like ice. "I don't find that funny. It's a stupid joke." "Oh, really?" Sophia asked, surprised. Grace's lips were a thin, tight line. If the light had been brighter, Sophia would have seen the pained, restrained look on her face. Grace had her arms crossed over her chest, trying to keep me from moving, but that didn't stop me from exploring elsewhere. Under the covers, where no one could see, I ran my hand up her thigh. She shivered at my touch. Sophia finally backed off. "Fine," she said with a shrug. "I won't disturb you too. I'm staying over at Ethan's tonight anyway." She gave Grace's bed one last meaningful glance, a flicker of contempt in her eyes. So much for the untouchable ice queen who acted so pure and aloof around guys. If she wasn't mistaken, Grace definitely had someone under those covers with her. Turns out she was wilder than she looked. But Sophia didn't call her out on it. She and Grace were on decent terms. Sure, it annoyed her that Grace was more popular, but aside from that, they got along okay. Sophia left, closing the door behind her. I threw back the covers. "Grace, I was about to suffocate in there." She was leaning against the headboard, gazing at me intently. The dim light played across her stunning features, casting soft shadows that made her look even more beautiful. I was captivated. Looking at a beautiful woman in the soft light is a whole different experience. "Noah," Grace said, sitting up slowly. She tucked a stray piece of hair behind her ear and looked at me with a serious expression. "I was never annoyed with you, and I wasn't trying to be mean. Don't believe what she said." With that, she turned her head away, got out of bed, and said, "You should get some sleep." "What about you?" I asked. Grace picked up a glass and gestured toward the living room. "I still have that show to finish." "You sleep." I grabbed her hand. Grace, it's cold out, and that blanket is pretty thin. This time, she pulled her hand away. Noah, Sophia's gone now. You don't have to keep this up. Confused, I asked, what does she have to do with anything? Grace gave a bitter, self-mocking smile. Why did you really go down to the river tonight? It finally clicked. She thought I was the suicidal college student Sophia mentioned. She believed I went to the river to end my life, and that everything tonight, calling her, coming here, was just an elaborate scheme to get back at Sophia. And honestly, I couldn't blame her for thinking that. For the past 2 years, my adoptive parents, the Williams family, had been putting immense pressure on me. Ever since their real son came back into the picture, they wanted to send me back to my biological parents. The only reason they let me stay was because of my potential marriage alliance with the Thompson family. To me, Sophia was a lifeline. I thought that because we were childhood sweethearts, she must have some feelings for me, that she'd help me out. I pinned all my hopes on her. But to everyone else, it just looked like I was dangerously obsessed, especially to Grace. As Sophia's best friend, she had a front row seat to my desperate pursuit for years. Grace, I started, wanting to explain, but she was already standing. Set an alarm, she said, her back to me. Leave early tomorrow before anyone sees you. She walked out of the room without stopping or looking back. I gritted my teeth. Then what about all those kisses tonight? What was all that just now supposed to mean? Grace stopped dead in her tracks. She turned around, and I could see her eyes were red-rimmed. I know you can't stand me. I went on, but thank you for tonight. If you really want nothing more to do with me, I'll leave right now. I got out of bed, and not even bothering to look for my shoes, I started walking out barefoot. As I passed her, my head down, I saw that silent tears were streaming down her face. Noah, she whispered, grabbing my arm. I told you, I don't hate you. I immediately pulled her into my arms. Then do you want me to be responsible for you? She didn't answer. I didn't wait for one. I cupped her chin in my hand and kissed her fiercely. She responded just as passionately, her breathing growing heavy. Noah, she said between breaths, if you're really going to be responsible for me, then you have to see it through to the end. I held her slim waist and replied with all the sincerity I had. I will. Over the fall break, I went to Worcester, the city where my biological parents lived. I stayed for 3 days. By the time I left, that pair of degenerate gamblers and criminals had been arrested. They were now facing the full, unforgiving force of the law. Human trafficking, illegal gambling, forcing people into prostitution. Thanks to my dreams, I had ironclad proof for every one of their crimes. I didn't need a second life or some future reincarnation. I could finally be free of those two monsters in this life and make sure they got the punishment they deserved. As I settled into my seat on the plane, I let out a long, slow breath. The heaviest weight on my soul had finally been lifted. For the first time, I felt truly free. When the plane landed back in Boston, the first thing I did was text Grace to let her know I was okay. She didn't know the real reason for my trip. She just thought I was away with friends for a few days. She texted back, "Is your new place all set up for me to come over tonight?" Grace was moving in with me. Sharing an apartment with Sophia was obviously not going to work anymore. I replied, "Already. I'm awaiting your arrival." She paused for a moment before typing, "Noah, what's up?" I asked. "It's Sophia's birthday today," she wrote. "She's having a party tonight, and she told me to come. And to bring my boyfriend." I'd totally forgotten Sophia's birthday was over the break. She continued, "Noah, do you want to go with me?" I didn't answer right away. I was torn. It wasn't that I didn't want to go public with Grace, but I knew the Williams family would disown me soon. And when they did, my whole sordid history would come out. I knew Grace wouldn't care, but I couldn't stand the thought of her being dragged through the mud because of me, just like in my dream. In the dream, they accused her of being a disloyal and ungrateful daughter, breaking her parents' hearts for a man who was nothing. But like she'd said, if I was going to be responsible for her, I had to be responsible all the way. You can't have it both ways. I took a deep breath and texted, "Do you want me to go?" Her reply was instant. "Yes." "Okay, then come pick me up. I'll go with you." I looked up from my phone and saw my reflection in the airport window. I was smiling, a genuine, happy smile. Suddenly, my phone buzzed with another text from her. "Noah, look outside." The moment I lifted my head felt like it was in slow motion. The smile was still on my face as the sound of the airport announcements faded into the background. Through the bustling crowd, I saw her. I only saw Grace. She waved and then started running towards me, weaving through the people. I dropped my suitcase and opened my arms. She slammed into me with enough force to knock someone over, but I held my ground and caught her easily. She wrapped her arms around my neck, her smiling face lighting up. "Wow, someone's got a strong core," she teased. I looked down at her and grinned. "My hips are pretty good too. Want to test them out?" She poked my shoulder and whispered in my ear, laughing softly. "We'll see about that. I'm just worried you'll be all talk and no action." I rolled my eyes and said with mock anger, "Oh, you just wait. Don't come crying to me begging for mercy later." At the birthday party that night, Sophia had invited, as usual, a huge crowd. She was the center of attention in a long, purple silk gown that clung to her slim figure and shimmered like starlight when she moved. Ethan was also dressed to impress in a designer suit with expensive cufflinks and perfectly styled hair. He was a magnet for attention, and, sitting next to Sophia, they made a picture-perfect couple. A few of his friends were hyping him up, and he was clearly loving it. He glanced over at Sophia, but she seemed to be a million miles away. "Sophia?" Ethan had to say her name a few times before she snapped out of her daze. "What is it?" "It's getting late," Ethan said. "Everyone's hungry." "But we're not all here yet," Sophia replied. "Who else are we waiting for?" "Grace isn't here yet." Ethan nodded. "Oh, right. And Noah." "Noah's not here either." Someone else chimed in. "Yeah, that's right. Noah would never miss Sophia's birthday." Sophia cut them all off abruptly. "I didn't invite him," she said sharply. "And even if he shows up, I won't let him in." "Sophia, don't get upset," Ethan said, trying to soothe her. "It's your birthday. Don't let someone so insignificant ruin it for you." Sophia looked at Ethan and gave a small nod. Ethan really was handsome and rich, and he knew all the right things to say to make a girl happy. I was a nice guy, sure, but I wasn't what she wanted. That's why she'd been drawn to Ethan instantly. It was only after they got together that she realized he wasn't all that special. For the past month, I hadn't been waiting for her outside the dorms. We hadn't walked to class or eaten in the cafeteria together. I had simply vanished from her life. On the rare occasions we did cross paths on campus, I'd turn and walk the other way. Sophia had to admit, she wasn't used to it. She told herself it was just a force of habit. She wasn't accustomed to the person who orbited her world suddenly going cold. She could never actually like me. She would never risk angering her family over a fake heir like me. But still, they'd known each other for so long. Sophia thought that if I came crawling back to her tonight, she wouldn't even make me beg. If I just sincerely apologized, she'd allow me to be in her life again. Just then, the door to their private room swung open. A guy walked in with a huge, gossipy grin on his face. "You'll never guess who I just saw," he announced, his eyes landing on Sophia. Someone near the door asked, "Who? Don't leave us hanging." Another girl added, "Yeah, spill it." "It wasn't Noah, was it?" The guy nodded enthusiastically. "It was. Sophia, we told you. He can't stay away from you. See? He couldn't even last through your birthday party." Sophia didn't say a word, but the gloomy expression on her face vanished. Ethan, on the other hand, scowled. He grabbed Sophia's arm, his tone halfway between a request and an order. "Sophia, can you please tell Noah to leave? He followed you around like a pathetic puppy for so long. Just thinking about it is gross." Sophia looked at Ethan and suddenly found him much more appealing than he'd been a moment ago. Her mood brightened instantly. Still, my recent behavior had really angered her. Even if she was going to forgive me, I needed to be taught a lesson first. So, she said casually, "Fine. Tell him to get lost." "Tell who to get lost?" My voice cut through the room. It wasn't loud, but everyone heard it. The entire room went dead silent. The door swung fully open, and Grace and I walked in. Sophia remained seated, but she suddenly smashed her wine glass on the floor. A shard of glass flew up and cut her ankle. "Sophia, you're bleeding," Ethan said frantically, rushing to her side. "Get out." Ethan stared at her in disbelief. "Sophia?" "I told you to get out," she said, her voice dripping with ice. Don't you understand English? She shot to her feet and kicked the broken glass aside. Ethan froze for a moment, then stormed out of the room in a rage. Taking the hint, everyone else quickly filed out as well. Blood dripped from the cut on Sophia's ankle onto the floor, but she didn't seem to feel it. Her eyes were locked on Grace. After a long moment, she pointed a finger at me. Grace, aren't you going to explain this? Grace just smiled faintly. Explain what? She asked, her voice perfectly level. Why is Noah with you? Sophia demanded. Grace let out a cold laugh. You're the one who told me to bring my boyfriend to your birthday party. Or did you forget? She linked her arm through mine, pressing herself against my side. Like an enraged cat, Sophia swiped her arm across the table, sending the remaining glasses crashing to the ground. Grace, don't you know Noah is mine? She shrieked. You're what? Grace asked calmly. Your boyfriend? Your fiancé? Or do you just think that because he liked you once, he's your property forever? Someone you can just string along and play with whenever you feel like it. Sophia ignored her, her voice rising. You knew he was in love with me, and you still went behind my back. Is that what you call being a best friend? She reached for my arm, but I caught her by the shoulders and shoved her back. She stumbled and fell to the floor, her purple dress soaking up the spilled drinks. Sophia, stop being so delusional, I said, disgusted. And stop being so damn clingy. There is nothing between us. She didn't steal anything because I was never yours to begin with. And for the record, I pursued her. I don't like you. In fact, I probably stopped liking you a long time ago. Do you get it? As I looked at her, I realized it was true. I was completely over it. What man with any self-respect would want to be with someone who treated him like a doormat? Someone she could summon and dismiss whenever she pleased. Maybe there was some sort of innocent affection back when we were kids, but that all turned to dust the moment my true background was revealed and her attitude towards me changed overnight. What did you just say? Sophia looked like she'd just heard the funniest joke in the world. She scrambled to her feet. You almost jumped into a river for me, and now you're saying you don't like me? Histoire de here, incredulous. I was never going to jump in a river for you. Seriously, what do you think you are? The only reason I went to the river that night was to have an excuse to call Grace. Sophia froze. After a long moment, she stared at me, her eyes filled with pure rage, and spoke through clenched teeth. So that night, in the apartment, in Grace's bed, that was you? Yes, it was me, I confirmed. Sophia, go live your life. I told you that day that I would never bother you again, and I meant it. Without another look at her, I took Grace's hand and we walked out. Grace, let's go home, I said. Don't you want to see our new apartment? But Grace didn't move. She turned to Sophia, her expression calm, but her eyes sharp as daggers. Sophia, Noah is my boyfriend, she said. He has absolutely nothing to do with you. And I better not hear you spreading rumors that he's yours ever again. Sophia completely lost her composure. She whipped her head around to glare at me. You say you love me 1 minute, and the next you just walk away and find someone else. Who the hell do you think you are? Who am I? I retorted. If you don't know, maybe you should go home and ask your father. Sophia fell silent. She glared at me, her beautiful face twisted into an ugly, ferocious sneer. Noah, you're not the real William's heir, she hissed. I bet Grace doesn't know that, does she? It's not very nice to hide such a big secret from your girlfriend, is it? I had been prepared for my story to come out eventually, but having Sophia expose it so suddenly and maliciously left me stunned. Seeing the color drain from my face, Sophia laughed. I knew it. You were hiding it from her. The only reason Grace is with you is because she thinks you're some rich kid. If she knew the truth, that you're just an adopted charity case, a worthless imposter, she'd avoid you like the plague. She wouldn't be caught dead with trash like you. Sophia, Grace said, her voice dangerously calm. She let go of my hand, slowly rolled up her sleeves, and took off her bracelet, handing it to me. She enunciated every word with chilling precision. I always thought you were just shallow and a bit of user. Not a good person, but not pure evil either. But now I see. Grace lunged forward, grabbed a handful of Sophia's hair, and yanked her forward. Sophia shrieked in pain as Grace held her fast. Before Sophia could even think to fight back, Grace slapped her hard across the face again and again with all her strength. "You're not just a despicable piece of trash," Grace spat between slaps. "You're a rotten, worthless bitch. And another thing, Sophia, I am nothing like you. I don't give a damn about the Williams heir or any other rich family's son. I love Noah. If his name was Noah, I'd love Noah. If his name was John Smith, I'd love John Smith. It's that simple." Sophia's face was bright red, but she was still defiant. "A piece of trash like him has probably lied his way into bed with dozens of girls. Birds of a feather flock together. You two, disgusting." A loud crack echoed as my hand connected with her mouth. I had slapped her with all my force before she could finish her sentence. The blow knocked one of her front teeth loose. She crumpled to the floor, clutching her mouth, too stunned and hurt to speak. Grace saw my fists were still clenched, that I was ready to hit her again, and quickly pulled me back. "Noah, stop. It's not worth it." I nodded, taking a deep breath to calm down. I took her hand. "Grace, let's go home." When we got to the car, I stopped her. "Grace, do you believe me?" "Believe what?" she asked. I looked straight at her. She was wearing a pale silk blouse, and her makeup made her look beautifully fragile, which somehow made the memory of her slapping Sophia even more incredible and heartwarming. For so many years, I've been desperately trying to prove myself, trying to hold on to my one lifeline. But nothing ever worked. The family who once loved me now treated me with cold indifference. It wasn't physical abuse, but that arrogant, dismissive treatment was enough to completely break a teenager. My birth parents were greedy, evil monsters, and I lived in constant terror of being sent back to them, into a life of ruin. My childhood first love looked down on me to her very core and kept her distance. And I died in that dream, never knowing that there was someone who had quietly loved me all along. Thank God none of that will ever happen now. "I meant it," I said. "I didn't go to the river because of Sophia, and nothing ever happened between me and her or anyone else. You're my first girlfriend, my only girlfriend." Before I could finish, Grace stood on her toes and kissed me. I wrapped my arms around her, pulling her close and kissing her back. When we finally broke apart, Grace gently traced the lines on my palm. "Noah, I don't care about any of that," she said softly. "But I'm still really happy you told me." I nodded. "I know, Grace. I just didn't want our lies hanging between us. I needed you to know the truth for your sake and for mine." I smiled and pulled her into an even tighter hug. "Come on, Grace, let's go home. You're going to catch a cold dressed like that." "Okay," she whispered. She took my hand, her grip firm and sure. And she never let go. Before Grace and I went fully public, I went to the Williams house and had a long talk with my adoptive parents. In the end, with the help of Caleb, their real son, I was able to regain legal control of my own life. From that day on, I was officially and completely free from both the Williams family and my biological parents. I chose that specific time because I knew exactly what kind of people both of my families were. If they found out about me and Grace, they would have latched onto the Davis family like leeches. I refused to let Grace and her family get dragged into that mess. When I left the Williams house, Mrs. Williams was not happy. "Noah," she said coldly, "we raised you for years, spent millions of dollars on you, and we've gotten nothing in return." I just smiled. My perspective on things had completely changed. The Williams family raised me for 16 years. And yes, the last few years after Caleb returned were hell, but they never let me starve. And then there was Caleb. He used to hate my guts, but for some reason, he'd had a complete change of heart. He had been a big part of the reason the Williams family had tried to force me to drop out of college and send me away. But now, he was the one who spoke up for me, who helped me solve this final problem, and who convinced Mrs. Williams not to broadcast my sordid history all over town. Now, I was just Noah, free as the wind, with nothing and no one holding me back. I was completely content. I gave Mrs. Williams a respectful bow. "Thank you for the years you raised me. I will never forget it." She shot me a cold look. Empty words. You couldn't even manage to secure your engagement to your childhood first love. What kind of future do you think you have? Whatever. Just go. The sight of you is irritating. Mrs. Williams waved a dismissive hand. I didn't bother arguing. I just caught Caleb's eye. Mom, I'll walk Noah out, he said. Mrs. Williams's face immediately softened. All right, she said gently. Hurry back. Dinner's almost ready. I know, Caleb replied with a smile. He led me out of the living room and into the garden, where we both stopped as if on cue. We looked at each other for a moment, and then we both started to smile. Man, I said, giving him a hug. Thank you. At the same time, Caleb murmured, Noah, I'm so sorry. We didn't say anything more, but we both knew. His apology was for the Noah from my dream. My eyes welled up with tears, and so did his. He gripped my hand tightly. Noah, this time, you have to be happy. Really, really happy. I will be, I promised. You too, man. As for what I owed the Williams family, I would repay it in my own way through Caleb. He had suffered for 16 years while I lived the life that should have been his. In my dream, I had hated him for it, but now all of that was water under the bridge. To be honest, I was incredibly nervous when Grace took me to meet her parents for the first time. Don't be nervous, Grace told me. My mom got really into her faith a few years ago, and she's become incredibly kind and gentle. And my dad just does whatever my mom says. I nodded, trying to calm my racing heart. I was about to run through my prepared opening lines one last time when Grace said, Noah, my mom's coming out to meet us. Sure enough, Mrs. Davis was already walking down the front steps toward our car. I braced myself and got out to meet her. Mom, this is Noah, Grace said. It's so nice to meet you, Mrs. Davis. I'm Noah, I said politely, handing her the gift I'd brought. Mrs. Davis accepted the gift with a smile, but her eyes remained fixed on me. She kept staring even after we were inside the house. Then she announced she wanted to take me up to the study. I shot a worried glance at Grace, but her mom just patted my shoulder reassuringly. Don't be nervous, Noah, she said. We're just going to have a little private chat. She then turned to tease Grace. You don't need to look so worried either. I'm not going to eat him. I could only manage a stiff smile and a nod. Mrs. Davis seemed to be in an exceptionally good mood, holding my hand as she led me into the living room. Honey, look, she said to her husband. Isn't he just like I told you? So handsome and charming. Mr. Davis was a kind, gentle-looking man. He smiled and nodded. He certainly is. A very polite young man. I was completely baffled and didn't know what to say. Mrs. Davis's eyes started to get a little red. Noah, please don't misunderstand, she said, her voice thick with emotion. This is going to sound crazy, but for years, I've had the same recurring dream. In it, my Grace falls in love with a boy, but she never marries, and she dies all alone in her 40s. At first, her father and I didn't believe it. We thought it was just a nightmare. But then, other things from the dream started coming true one by one. Tears began to stream down her face. All these years, I've been praying all for Grace's sake. I was so terrified that the end of that dream would come true too. I kept thinking, if only that boy from my dream really existed, if only he could be with my Grace, everything would be okay. Now that I see you, I know my prayers have been answered. She took my other hand, her eyes pleading. Noah, you and Grace, you have to be happy together. You have to. My own vision had blurred with tears. In a world that had people like my birth parents, there were also mothers like Mrs. Davis, who loved their daughters more than anything. What had I ever done to deserve someone like Grace, and a family like hers, who could heal all the wounds from my past life? Epilogue, Grace's perspective. The day we graduated from college, Noah and I went and got our marriage license. Soon after, we moved into our first home together. While he was in the shower, I took the pearl earring I'd kept safe for so long from under my pillow. This time, I put it on, wearing nothing else. When Noah came out of the shower, I was lying in bed, tucked tightly under the covers, pretending to be asleep. Grace, he murmured. A warm, damp kiss landed on my cheek. It tickled, and my eyelashes fluttered, but I didn't open my eyes. I heard him chuckle softly before he kissed me again, and then climbed into bed beside me. But the moment he pulled back the covers, he froze. The soft, warm glow of a nightstand lamp spilled over me. The pearl in my ear caught the light, gleaming softly. The gentle light cast shadows that danced with the curves of my body. My pale skin was a stark contrast to the dark sheets, creating a tempting picture. I had been so nervous before, my whole body stiff, but seeing the look on Noah's face now, all my anxiety melted away. I sat up and threw myself into his arms, hooking my arms around his neck. I leaned in and whispered in his ear, "Noah, do you like what you see?" His eyes were wide and locked on me. I could feel the muscles in his body tense, his skin growing hotter, like his blood was starting to boil. His Adam's apple bobbed in his throat, a movement I found incredibly alluring. I tilted my head and pressed my lips against his throat, giving him a gentle bite. It was like opening a floodgate, like a dormant volcano suddenly erupting. In an instant, Noah flipped us over, pinning me beneath him on the bed. He kissed me with a fierce, overwhelming passion that left me breathless, feeling like I might melt into him completely. "Grace!" He repeated my name over and over endlessly. Then at the last moment, he kissed me gently and whispered, "If it hurts, you can bite me." I closed my eyes and whimpered, my nails digging into his back as I bit down hard on his shoulder. But it still hurt, and I couldn't stop the tears from flowing. "Noah," I sobbed, looking up at him. His intensity was frightening, and for a second, I thought he wouldn't be able to stop. But he did. He stopped completely and just held me. I clung to his waist, and then I remembered our conversation at the airport. You said begging and crying wouldn't help me, remember? The raw desire in his eyes hadn't faded, and I could see the immense struggle and restraint in his expression. Noah held me tighter, his voice hoarse when he spoke. "I couldn't bear to hurt you," he rasped. Then he asked, "Grace, when did you first start to like me?" I didn't answer, and he pulled me in even closer. He stared right into my eyes. "If you don't tell me, then I won't tell you I love you," he threatened playfully. But beneath the desire in his eyes, I could see an ocean of genuine love. Finally, I gave in. "The very first time I saw you, I confessed. Noah, I honestly thought you would never know." Noah kissed the corner of my mouth, his touch full of tenderness. "It's okay, Grace," he whispered. "We have a lifetime together now." He was right. We had a lifetime. Our fingers were laced together, and as I tilted my head up to kiss him, he met me halfway, his lips gentle and reassuring. "Noah," I whispered against his mouth, "I don't think it hurts anymore. Do you want to continue?" The room was soon filled with sounds that would make anyone blush, and they didn't quiet down for a very long time. The night was long, but before us stretched the even longer, more wonderful expanse of the rest of our lives.